Hey everybody, it's Robert Dunt from ArtTop10.com, and I'm very pleased to be here today with Graham Crowley at his group summer exhibition Silent Disco 23. Me and Graham are going to chat about some of the works, but first of all, Graham, why don't you just give us a little intro to what's taking place here?
Okay, right. 2 years ago, I did a group show of very, very disparate sort of characters, and basically I selected the people. I didn't select the work. I left the people who I'd invited to be involved to select the work themselves, and because I wasn't going to sort of be the curator who either liked or disliked stuff, who approved or disapproved, in that kind of sort of I don't know, rather authoritarian and rather clunky sort of way. I thought, well, these people are the best judges of their own work. Let's see what they think, because they're going to have one piece. And last time there were 30, 32, and there are 34 people in the show this year. Okay, right? Okay. And by the way, the title Silent Disco, only on one or two occasions have I actually tried, when I'm particularly locally in the village, handing out little flyers, and they say, "What? You've got a license to have a disco?" And I said, no. It's don't forget, you can't get into appropriation theory or anything kind of esoteric like that. No, what it is basically I say, well, it's kind of everybody dancing to their own tune. That's a way of generally, but in actual fact, it's a willful misappropriation of a fairly something that culturally is. You have to see it to understand what's going on. It's embedded. And so that's it. It's incongruous. It's meant to be sort of misleading and inappropriate, and as I say, a misappropriation. So anyway, so this is the second. It's not the second group show we've done here. We've done about 5 or 6 now. But it's the second one called Silent Disco, and I think the title should stick.
I think the title is brilliant.
Good. So they'll be differentiated by the year, obviously. Apostrophe 23, like all those marvellous cruising albums. Cruising 57, and it wasn't 1957, it was 57.
57.
Yeah. Anyway, yes. So ask us another, Rob.
Yeah, exactly. So, well, I've had a little look round, and I'm absolutely fascinated.
Good.
And I feel like I'm kind of being thrown. With almost every single picture.
Good.
It's throwing me one way or another. And when I find one that's actually all on canvas, I'm even more disturbed. because there's so many different materials. There's all sorts of appropriated cardboard, sort of polythene over here, the clock sort of in the corner.
You've got to be very careful, because there is another clock in the corner as well.
Yes, there is another clock in the corner. But no, I found the whole thing quite magical, and as I went round, I was sort of, enormously enjoying being played with. Well, basically, there are two things that work there. One is, I think painting is a discourse rather than an activity. The activity that's closest to that description is probably decorating, whereas painting's of a different order, basically. I think it is, anyway. As I say, I choose the people and they choose the work, okay? And because I believe it's the discourse of painting that actually is common or shared with just about most of the work here, aspects of the history of painting, right, as they're collectively received and understood. So shall we delve into one of these?
I think we should. I think I'll start talking about the word. I'll tell you, one of the things you've raised is the word fascinating. I don't like or dislike it. Anyway, people say, well, don't you even like your own work? I say, no, it doesn't cross my mind. It's a bit like sort of whether I like being me or whether I like gravity or not. It's not sort of stuff. It's to even think you have an opinion. You can have an opinion about it. It's facile, and insulting. I find it fascinating. I generally, like you, as you say, when you chose the word fascinating, I thought that's exactly the right word for a hell of a lot of the stuff in this show. It's fascinating. It's intelligent. It's made by people who are in the midst of their career or the height of their game, and or games, because that's the other thing is, of course, I try to make sure I choose people who haven't got squit in common, basically, and then hang them together to deny the commonality. But
I feel there is a thread
Oh, there's a thread, but it's this thing about fascination. It's about approach. It's about attitude. It's about the idea of the discourse. It's not the idea of whether you squeeze it out of a tube or not.
Oh yeah, no. The thread seems to be of that sort of slightly unnerving narrative that you can't quite find, or
well, it's indeterminacy.
Yeah,
it's why I've been writing about the difference between painting and illustration recently. This is about indeterminacy, the idea that there is no one single understanding. It's not sort of, oh right, I've got it, oh I understand art now. No you don't. No, it's not like that. I don't, so I don't see why you come to it lately. Anyway, let's kick off with this one. This is by Tracy Harper. It's a small painting on canvas, cotton duck. It's called Monkey Brain, okay? Monkey Brain. Now, I think most people are conversant with the term lizard brain. I think that's pretty self-evident what that's about, the fight or flight, or the kind of selfish, and the, you know, we can think of a hell of a lot of types. Don't even get me going and say something. Right, but this is Monkey Brain, which is more about the idea of being perplexed, being engaged. I think delight can come into it, but also a degree of confusion. And I mean, when I see this, as I say, it's fluorescent paint, everything is stirred up. It's kind of sort of, it has to be, you struggle to organise it when you're looking at it, okay? So indeterminacy, uncertainty, all of those elements that I think really characterise the idea of creativity, whether it's painting or not, it's another matter, abound in things like this, right? And the ramifications can only be weighed visually. There's no objective way of saying, oh, that's pretty good. Oh, I like the pink in that. It doesn't matter, does it? Because that's by the by. I think it's extraordinary, because it's all, as I say, it's about uncertainty, about hesitancy, and then about action. Suddenly, in the midst of all that confusion, you find a way through it. And I think that's a very, very honest, if you like, way of actually approaching this whole business, rather than saying, right, my work's about the genre I have chosen to work on, that sort of.
I mean, it throws me in on numerous good ways. In that, without sounding too stupid, you've got the pink in it, and I just keep thinking of the Indiana Jones film where they're eating monkey brains, and so I've got all this sort of different information coming through.
And if you Google it, of course, a lot of it is about, you know, what should we say, really rather kind of gruesome culinary. Fare. Anyway, right, and moving on. Yes. See. So there's no segue here, because there can't be, because that Monkey Brain and your English shores. And I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to ask you what you think you're looking at.
Well.
Yes.
No. So I have a feeling, which could be completely wrong, that it's an appropriated watercolour, isn't it, from the brochure. I think all he's done is found this picture and then given it a new title at the bottom.
That's a very.
That is my. That is what I guess he's done.
Well, that's a very. I think what you've done is you've underestimated Neil's ability.
Well, I'm sure.
Massively, and probably insulted him. His
probably.
Okay, right. But what's actually happening here is it's much more interesting than you've made out. Thank God. Now, okay. So Neil works in. Black Horse Lane in one of the Barbican Arts Group studios, right? Okay. Right. In that studio is another person, and that person goes around car boot sales looking for old gilt frames, you know, old picture frames, in order to put her work in the gilt frame. Okay, that's all you need to know. But of course, when she gets hold of these old frames, they come with a picture in them, right?
Of course,
She's not interested in the picture, so she chucks them away. But not exactly chucking them away, she just gives them to Neil, right? So Neil, a large part of his work is dictated by this woman's, by what she gives him, right?
That's quite good, isn't it?
Isn't it? Yes. So it's not kind of going around going, yes, of course, objet trouvé, you know, I kind of I found this because I think it's interesting. No, I didn't have any say in it. It's just I was given it, you know, that one, right? Anyway, so it's the frame as well looks like something from his sort of auntie's 1940s, 50s kind of slightly domestic sort of.
Yeah.
Okay, but I think that's about type. But what's fascinating is that this is a watercolour, and it is just found or given. I've struggled to see where the join is, as they say.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I can see it's been modified because of the idea of climate change, rising sea levels.
Oh, yes.
Okay. Yeah. Which wasn't a concern in maybe the 1930s or 40s that it is now. Okay.
Oh my goodness me! It's all falling together a bit more now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that good?
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
And so look on the horizon. I don't know whether you can pick it up with your camera.
I just spotted it on the horizon. The wind farm.
Yeah.
So now I'm beginning to think: has he submerged those houses in there?
Yeah, of course he has.
So were they?
But that's what I'm saying. The whole thing that we're bringing to it about climate change and rising sea levels, he projected onto what was probably a fairly innocuous sort of, rather average sort of seaside view.
So it was a seaside. So the houses weren't even ever there.
No. I don't know. I can't say that. I think if you look at them, I think the houses were there, but he's modified them.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I seriously, that's what's brilliant about it. You can't see what he has and hasn't done. I mean, I'm pretty certain he painted the wind farm.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I may not be the world's greatest expert on climate change, but that's Neil at work. But I think that's terrific because, as I say, your misreading of it is so. It's going to be a delightful thing, because when people see it. And there are several other items in the show here which are going to be totally misconstrued and misunderstood, and that's really interesting.
Oh no, but that's the whole thing. That's what I said. When you find one on all in canvas, I'm really worried. What is the trick behind it?
Have I missed
what have I missed?
Yes. Right, moving on. This is by a guy called Simon Ogden.
Here is
Simon. He was a student I met when he was at the Royal College about 30 years ago.
Oh.
Yeah, and when he left the Royal College, the painting school, he flew down to New Zealand and got on a survey vessel and went to Antarctica as artist in residence. You brought plenty of white with you, haven't you? Yeah, plenty of blue, a bit of white. Yeah. Anyway, so he went down there. That was fascinating and extraordinary. And then he went back to Christchurch on the South Island and thought, while I'm here, I'll have a look around. He never came back. Okay.
I interviewed him in lockdown.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, I interviewed him in lockdown, and he was complaining he'd run out of some colour, and he was mixing it with all sorts of other colours.
Really?
Yeah. It was Payne's Grey. He was desperate for Payne's Grey.
Yes. Yeah. Good luck. Oh, bless. Yeah, we'll come to that later.
Yeah.
What would the world be without Payne's Grey? Anyway, what's happened now? Simon is his work involves going to what are called batches, B-A-C-H-E, I think, batch, which is short for bachelor. These are sheds, predominantly on the South Island, where guys would live who were tending sheep or whatever it was they were doing out on the South Island, which is the more temperate of the two, obviously. And what's curious about them is they'd be abandoned, and Simon would take materials from these wrecks basically, and some of them would have linoleum on the floor, but even though they were built in the 30s and 40s, the lino was from, say, the Edwardian period, so it was already antique. Anyway, so these places were dilapidated, they're falling down, and Simon would find stuff, whatever. And so there are little bits of wall, little bits of tables, bits of things lying around, and he makes these. It's basically, he cuts them impeccably. I mean, this is basically what most people would regard as marquetry. That's the method. And anyway, so there they are, and I think that's from about 25 years ago, but he's been making them for about 30 years. This is Lesley Bunch. It's called Shadow Sculpture 29. Okay, right. Lesley won the Contemporary British Painters Open Competition last year, which is where I met her and where I saw her work for the first time. And I was really, as I say, when you see something as done with such a degree of accuracy or kind of such deliberacy, you expect to know what it is somehow. As a kind of, it's not necessarily the brightest observation, but you kind of think, what's going on? Yeah. And shadow sculpture, that doesn't really help me in any sense, but there's a hint in the sense that this is not a sculpture, but the thing in the picture might just be an invention or a fabrication.
That's quite intriguing.
Yeah. Now, whether that's a hybrid or whatever, but there is something going on here that involves reflections, shadows, the phenomena, that one associates with objects collectively, not necessarily specifically. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's kind of type.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just think it's as I say, when I first saw it, I thought it was airbrush. It's not. It's painted with fan brushes, apparently.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, which are the things. I don't know about you. If you ever tried to use them, I find them impossible to use, to be honest, because I'm just cack-handed.
They sell in those art shops to do like waves, aren't they?
Oh yes, or Bob Ross does it. Yeah.
A little bit, Bob.
Yeah, go on, Bob. Yeah. Yes, happy little tree. No, it's American, isn't it? Anyway, right, okie doke. But I just think that's absolutely fascinating. Again, that was you were talking about the show, and this is a painting, but there's a kind of sort of it's at the edge of painting in one sense, and in another sense, it's right in the centre.
Yeah, and actually, as you've said it now, it's twisted in my head between something real, something that may not be real, something that.
I think it's I mean, the object is itself an invention, a construct, and there's no reason to assume that the thing that's being depicted might also be a construct. Yeah. And is referred to in the title as shadow sculpture. This is Sarah Jeffries, and it's called Boxed Bride Number 5. Right now. I've shown this to a few other people who visited in the last few days, and I'm struggling to find a type or a genre, because it's the antithesis of a rom-com. Okay? You know those moments where you see he's been a two-timings bastard, and she goes in with a knife and slashes up the suits. Yes, that's right, the suits, not the blood. The suits. No, it's not. We're not talking a murder mystery. We're talking. Okay, right. Okay, but that's her wedding dress. Right.
Is that actually her wedding?
Yes. She's
really?
going. Yes, hold on, Sarah. I don't think she'll mind me saying this. Is separated, going through a divorce and stuff like that. Okay, right. So she, and in this, what is really ostensibly just a picture frame as a container, is a bit of her torn up, her dismantled wedding dress. Right, make of that what you will. Then there are kind of sort of glimpses of what look like generic kind of photographs, but they've been prated or reduced. What I find particularly disturbing about this piece of work is not necessarily the backstory, it's the fact that the whole thing is wrapped up in a polythene bag with a warning on not to stick it over your head.
Yes. The polythene bag is the roughest,
it doesn't matter how bad it is, don't kill yourself, all right? Don't suffocate. And don't let small children near it, which I think is fair, good advice with most art. Really.
Yes.
Anyway, here we go. Right, this is a poster by Harry Pye. Right, you won't be surprised to know it's called Adam and Eve. Right, okay, right. Now, I don't know whether people who come to this film will know much about Harry Pye. Harry is fascinating. He is he's a kind of he's an agency in a sense. He's a kind of a catalyst. He can get people. He's a project. He thinks of projects, extraordinary things to raise money, and not just for himself. I mean, not for himself, but for other projects and causes. He is. He's very, very creative in the broadest sense of the word. But what fascinates me is that not only I think it was on his Wikipedia entry, was a show that he curated, again, of other people's work. And I think this is important to talk about this, because I see that as an act of, when this discourse works well, it's an act of generosity and inclusion. It's not about approval or disapproval. It's about curiosity, right? And thinking, why would anybody do that? Why did she do that? And in the case of Harry, the show was called, that's right, somebody attacked it, and he said, it may be rubbish, but it's British rubbish. And you think, this guy's got a really terrific way of dealing with people's expectations, subverting them, but at the same time frustrating them, but also producing something that is actually very generous and actually quite warm-hearted. And the next picture, well, hung alongside Harry Pye's Adam and Eve, is Stephen Dunne's Against the Day. Now, when Stephen told me the title of that, I suddenly thought, Against the Day? That sounds familiar. It's Thomas Pynchon's epic novel, which is, I think, it's 1,200 pages, something bonkers. Because I thought it was familiar. But the reason they're hung together is because there's some birds in a tree, there's a monkey up a tree, and a snake and stuff, and you think, oh, maybe it's got something in common. No, these two artists, painters, have nothing in common in their approach. You get it? You think and that's what I suddenly thought. That's fascinating. It's like the. What is it called? It's counterintuitive. You know, you kind of think, I'll put them together because I know full well that their approaches are a million miles apart. Okay, right.
But it works.
I think it does.
Because when you're wandering around, and I remember looking at this, and I look at that one quite carefully. I was working out how it's made, and then you come up to this one, it's like, and you've got all that sort of thick paint, and it's so different. It sort of highlights both of their.
Right. Anyway, Stephen has a professed interest in the philosophy of mind. I mean, he makes no bones about it. Oh, yes. And I think one of those, it becomes evident when you start to see and hear how he goes about making these paintings, right? Because they migrate. The subject matter shifts all the time.
Seriously?
And in the larger pieces, I mean, the work is, I think it's terrific work, and unfortunately we couldn't have a larger piece because he's in Ireland and we're here, right? But every so often, because if you look at the way that the birds are juxtaposed to the branches, that branch goes through that bird.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, so there's something kind of straining. First of all, it looks innocuous, but the more you look at this picture, the more you look at this painting, the more thoughtful, the more fascinating, the more kind of unorthodox it becomes, and I think that's really important. Okay. It's terrific.
That's really good, actually.
Talking of orthodoxy, this is John Stark. Now, John obviously is very, very accomplished. I mean, makes these exquisite paintings of. He does lots of Gothic sort of paintings of witches riding out and stuff.
Oh, really?
But he also sort of does a series of still lifes or nature more, cherries and lemons, all with that one highlight, the drop of juice running down. Vivid and sumptuous. And of course, so when he shows them, they are very accessible, very popular, and in demand, as it were. He said every time he's offered a show. He puts this one in and say, do you want this, and this, and that, and that. I'm certainly not having that, pointing at that. And I thought, that's brilliant, because that's, of all of those pictures that you've offered me, that's the one I want, because it's the one that is wrong. It's absolutely, you don't know whether to cook it, eat it, or kill it.
Exactly.
I mean, these are rotting they're corpses of parsnips. So the anthropomorphic, the idea of the mortality of veg, as it were.
Mortality of veg.
And identifying with that. And yes. Or mordant, whichever way you look at it. Because to be mordant, you have to once be alive. Okay. Right. Moving on. Now, this is Geoffrey Dennis. Now, Geoffrey is. Let me just get this right. Yes. Ariadne in the Islands. Now, Jeff has been making, I think, terrific paintings. I think this one was made in, it's only a few years ago, where what looks like a wall or a surface is kind of interrupted by these holes, which are either punctured or looking like postcards, or maybe they're just apertures, right?
Interesting.
And so everything sort of feels indeterminate. And by the way, I don't think you'll mind me touching it, but here we've got this really coarse impasto over the surface here. And when you do go to places like, you know, the Mediterranean, Greece and Crete, obviously, you suddenly think, you're reminded that you're still in the so-called real world. The reality is shared, the collective culture. And Ariadne, I'm not going to go into the mythology of Greek and Roman, of Greek gods and goddesses. Right, and these two I've put together because although they are superficially dissimilar, this is a painting by Sarah Dwyer, who is Irish, so there's Stephen and Sarah are both Irish artists, and this is by Isabelle Young. I put them together because first off, they don't seem to look alike, right, and that's great because that's what the show's about. It's about difference and about sort of thinking about whether there's a relationship with things, when you think there should be, there isn't, and when you think there should be, there isn't, because this is a painting about Roman mythology, now hold on, it's called Lararium. It's a shrine to the household gods, right? And funnily enough, on the BBC website today is a whole thing about, is it Pompeii or... there's a site with, everywhere you look, there's snakes in relief on the wall. And this is no exception. So the snake within that kind of gods or deities of the household, you think, well, mate, it's a bit like making rats or mice deities of the household. They must have been everywhere. The idea of being, inundated with snakes, fills me with horror, basically. But they're together because at the end, at the centre of it, is this organic and visceral and the idea that the material is carrying that meaning, because of the way it behaves. Again, that's what distinguishes it as painting rather than illustration.
Yes. Well, you can see because the weaves of the snake are almost weaved in the background and the whole painterly.
But also the idea of when that voluptuousness and what's called oleaginous, that quality of oil paint. It's oleaginous, wonderful word. But and so here we get the image is embedded in the material, and here it's actually, I think, this kind of what is it? Sort of rather. Gut-like, organic, visceral sort of quality is found in the material. Anyway, so yes, and this is what's been making the noise all the time.
Exactly.
I think you recognise what it is, don't you? Or what it was. It was one of those. If ever you've been to a railway station about 20 or 30 years ago, the noise you hear would be the tannoy, and every so often there would be this click, 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 slap noise, right?
Oh man,
Where things like Romford became, something like Chelmsford or Liverpool Street or something.
And that's actually one of those?
It's a clock. It's a digital clock, right? So if we wait, let's wait for a second. Listen, I can hear it clicking, just a second. Sorry, I don't know. Some of that little things. And of course, that wasn't a very interesting composition. The next one will be more exciting. There'll be another composition along in a minute. And I just think it's absolutely brilliant.
That's really funny.
But the fact that you have to remember all of these covered in numbers. That John has taken it apart, dismantled it, painted each piece, right?
Because there's a lot of pieces there.
Oh, well, hold on, yes. I never know how many, but I think, they're in halves and there's 20. Oh, anyway, I can't do the arithmetic. But what a brilliant piece.
It is brilliant.
It just has this wonderful, every minute that will go plop, and every half hour?
Oh.
And every 30 minutes, that will go plop.
Oh, of course.
So that marks the half hour and the hour. And that marks the minute. But now we've got this, this mirroring thing going on, and all sorts of other wonderful little formal compositional niceties. What fascinates me about this piece is that it isn't what it seems. It's not what it appears. And I think that is absolutely delightful. And the way it is done with such consummate ease, in such an understated way. I mean, this, historically, what's collectively called trompe-l'oeil is pretty, it's quite laughable, most of it, because when you do see a rabbit's foot and a bit of old leather, I mean, it was big in America in the late 19th century, so it would be a Davy Crockett hat, bit of leather, a bit of an old receipt for a gun or something, or some whiskey, and they would be nailed onto this bit of wood, and they'd have this wonderfully impeccably painted shadows, and everybody would be going, God, that really does fool my eye. And you think, no, it doesn't. It's so stupid. You know, when would you see things like that together, except in a silly, this rather sort of hokey genre? And so you put it away, a bit like sort of kinetic art. You put it away and think, oh, well, that's what it is. I don't need to engage with that any longer. I don't want to worry about that. And then I came across this, and it wasn't until I unwrapped it I thought, blimey.
Oh, really? Yeah,
I thought, this is the first time I've ever seen anything that warrants the name trompe-l'oeil.
Trompe-l'oeil, ah, yes.
And if you like, redeems what is basically a rather lost cause. I think it's absolutely terrific, because the more and you get over the initial blimey. So they're not staples. What you mean? Like it's not two pieces of wood, and it goes on and on.
Weirdly enough, it goes on and on, because even only now, as you were saying, that the white tops of the holes.
You can only just see it. It's imperceptible, yes. Where the holes, when you make a hole and you pull out a bradle or something, it puckers. There's a little kind of caldera, like a sort of volcano. Goes, Anyway, absolutely terrific. Roland Hicks, by the way. This is Deborah Grace. Now, Deborah's work is exquisite, and what I really enjoy about this is somebody who takes an historic genre, you know, the kind of there's a term for landscapes I think you're not sure if it's sunset or sunrise, but it has this kind of liminal, sort of at the edge of the day, dusk, dawn sort of quality, and the lights. So there's something deeply romantic and conventional about it, but what isn't conventional is just this intervention. These wonderful interventions. Yes, one can understand, like, you know, the radiancy of light, but not the way that behaves, or if it is, it's seen in such a dramatic form. I just think it's absolutely captivating.
Oh, that's actually quite interesting, because it's also actual gold, that bit.
Yes, it is gold. Yes. But what I'm saying is, it's exciting because it flies so close to a set of conventions.
You know what? That's actually really clever, because when I saw it before, I did see those conventions, but now you talk about it, it destroys those conventions in a weirdly. It's so, but it's quite imperceptible. It's quite so subtle.
Oh, it's understated. Yes, nobody's hammering at the door. No, this is subtle stuff.
That's really clever.
Yeah. And then, of course, gradually that sort of Whistler-esque sort of thing. You know, you recalibrate and you start to see the vestigial fences and the kind of, what is it? It's like that wonderful beginning at Our Mutual Friend in Dickens, when they're describing the Thames near Gravesend and the murk. Now, all right, moving on. This is Justin Hibbs, and it's called New Deal. Now, the thing that I've always enjoyed Justin's work. He's one of those people who can take pretty much anything and transform it. Right? Now look carefully at this. Have you looked at the way the surface is eroded?
Oh yeah, nice.
Right? Now, whether that's an accident or whatever, I'm not sure. Whether it's been masked and it's come off and it's making the best of what's it. But, you know, we're taking low-grade materials. This is a piece of, is it the New York, hold on, it's here. Copy of the New York Times. Ink and acrylic paint on newspaper. It's called New Deal. Now, New Deal, anybody who's sort of got to know in American history will know that was it was passed by the president at the time. So his name escapes me, of course, and it was to provide work and reinvigorate the American economy in the years of the Great Depression.
Oh, yeah.
I want to say Woodrow Wilson, but it's not. It's Harry Roosevelt or Roosevelt. Truman? I'm not sure. Anyway, okay. Right, but what a beautiful thing. And of course, the other thing that's fascinating is when I first saw it, if you say newspaper and pink, what do you think of?
Oh, Financial Times.
Of course, Interesting.
Yeah, it is.
So there's, and the pinstriping is impeccable.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. Great. Very quiet. Now this is, this is called Think of a Card.
Yeah, it's very clever.
Yeah, it is, yes. Yeah. Now, this is by a guy called Damien Roach. Damien was a student of mine a long, long time ago at the Royal College. He's one of the people who is truly a multimedia artist.
Right.
I think he's with Warp Records still.
Okay.
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. And I don't think you mind me saying, under the his performance name is Patton with a small p, P-A-T-T-E-N, and I think he used to perform with somebody else, but it's terrific music, really, really. I'm not going to get into the genre and type because I'll obviously get it wrong. Right, but anyway. So he and along with Sarah over there are both registered to doing PhDs at present. Sarah up in Sheffield with Judith Tucker, which is where Griselda Pollock used to work.
Okay.
Yep. And and Damien will be going to the Royal College. I think it's the Royal College he's registered to do it. Anyway, so he's a multimedia artist, and just about everything he touches has this real. Like this. It's just playing cards stuck on the wall. Yeah. And then sort of a day or two later, you think of a card.
Yeah, think
of a card. Yes.
That's the.
Yeah. Now, a lot of work that has the sort of comes under the kind of collective now conceptual art. Basically where there's very little in the room, you're not being given too much to work with. Yeah. Whereas here, this is one of those things. Everybody's seen one. It's nothing esoteric, nothing completely weird, but think of a card. Well, hold on, I can see one get it? And it gets more and more delightful, the riddle. But if you see, now I've asked people, 2 or 3 people, they've got it right each time. You buy a pack of cards, a new pack of cards, and somebody asks you to stick one on the wall. Which one do you take out the pack and stick on the wall?
The Joker.
Yeah. That's quite interesting. Because I thought, I've still got a pack of cards. I'm not mad.
Yeah.
Anyway, so let's look.
I love this one.
Yeah, I do. I think it's absolutely delightful.
To me, I find it weirdly. I felt it summed up the whole show.
Oh, now hold on. I'm really glad you said that, because that was the piece that I thought is at the heart of what we're trying to do.
Oh, really?
And it's one of the pieces that is also, for a lot of people coming to the show, the most problematic, probably.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that sort of invisibility of what's in your mind behind it, you can't quite. Yeah.
Are you thinking of a card?
Yeah.
Right. It is. There's something fascinating, something delicious about that being tantalising.
Yeah, tantalising. Yeah. That's a really good description.
Claire Palmier. Now, Claire runs the art station. It's an art centre and I think studio facility for local artists. Has a terrific programme. And anyway, but she is a practicing artist in her own right. I believe I met being the operative word, bumped into her probably about 30 or 40 years ago when I was teaching at Goldsmiths, and she was a student there. Anyway, this piece, which I think is absolutely riveting. First of all, you've got the symmetry and the perspex, and this is warning tape, that kind of sort of do not enter crime scene stuff, or the black and yellow is that anyway. So there's a variety of warning tapes, which I think you can also put on the back of trucks and things and trailers and what have you. So anyway, and what's happened is the geometry is out of whack. So you get this lovely sort of, when you're looking at a flower, it's never symmetrical. There's always an asymmetry going on. There's always a slight list or a slight curve. And this has got that in spades.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, so, there's the regular, the geometric, but there's something at work that actually leads it into this wonderful spiral. Yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't. I hadn't realised that it is sort of off centre.
Oh, very much so. Yeah, that ain't the centre of that. That's the centre there, or somewhere around there. Okay.
Yeah, it's actually quite dizzy making.
Oh, that's an interesting point. Yeah. Well, I actually think things like this are disorientating rather than dizzy making, because just as you understand how that pattern works, right?
It falls apart.
Yeah. That understanding doesn't hold up.
Yeah.
So it's frustrating. I think it's brilliant.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Now, this is a painting called St Agnes by our old friend and your tutor, I believe, for a while.
Yeah, life drawing back in the day.
Sharon Beavan.
Yeah.
Yes, back in the day. Yeah. Right. Now, I've, as I say, I've got a great deal of time and respect for her. Not only is she one of the best teachers I've ever met in my life, not just teachers of drawing, but teachers in any sense of the word, right? She's also a brilliant painter, a painter of extraordinary humanity. Seriously, of empathy and generosity. This is St Agnes. Now, St Agnes is the patron saint, which is what I should have said, of young girls.
Oh, right.
Right, okay. Now, in conventional classical mythology, and I can't remember whether this is an 18th, 19th or early 20th century canonised in one of those.
Okay.
I can't remember. But the conventions and the iconography have her holding or costing a lamb.
Oh, right.
Okay. Now, whether that's the lamb as in the Lamb of God, or the iconography, the transformative thing about Christ, the lamb, the shepherd, it all gets a little bit murky, that, and I'm not a theologian. Anything but. But anyway, so here we are. We have the lamb supplanted by the rabbits, and I think there's also a kind of Rapunzel that she was. Anyway, she met a dreadful and grisly fate. So don't. It was even by the standards of female martyrs. Hers was really bad. Oh, it's dreadful. Anyway, and there's several versions apparently, and I'm not going to go into them, they're just too ghastly. But suffice to say, she's a patron saint of young girls. But in a moment of what looks like self-awareness, she's not just the patron saint of young girls, she's the patron saint of victims of sexual violence and rape.
Intriguing.
Yeah. Now, I was, you think about the way that saints are described, you never get that degree of kind of candour or kind of directness. It's always euphemistic. Somebody be the patron saint of sort of Tuesday. And why is that? Oh, I can't remember. Whereas here, it's available. And I just think it's an exquisite, understated painting that is high on ambition and very, very low on rhetoric, and that's terrific. Yeah,
and it's also very strange.
Yeah, and it's antithetical to the idea of iconography. Particularly religious. This is by Stephanie Fawbert. Yeah, Stephanie Fawbert, and you won't be surprised to know it's called Jump. Okay, but the thing that I really enjoyed about this painting, apart from the kind of rather unpretentious sort of matter-of-fact way it's painted, and it's sensitive to light and space, but it epitomises the idea of the frozen moment. It really is.
Totally.
Whereas most of the other paintings, that's in equilibrium, everything's lying around in equilibrium. 99% of all paintings are in equilibrium, not just here, but in general. And I thought, that's terrific. The other thing, of course, I enjoyed about that is it reminded me of one of those sort of small figures that you can get that go with, not model rowers exactly, but there's something kind of generic.
Oh, I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah. And you think,
like those little toys you could get as a kid. That were it's almost not quite like a play person, but
no,
almost.
Oh no, anything but.
No.
But you do hope it's a jump and not push. And this is, and next to it is a piece by Bob and Roberta Smith. This is, I think it's done about 10 years ago. I like art being taught in secondary education. Well, nobody's going to disagree with that sentiment. I think But if only they were teaching it, that would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, now we're talking about certificating it, but we'll leave it there. This piece is by Nessie Stonebridge, and I'm going to read the title because I want to get it right. Here we are. Silence in a Flat Field.
Okay. Cool.
Right, okay. Now, Nessie and Debbie live in Norfolk, right? And as I say, do you want to just pan round for a minute? Yeah, because I think it's very important. Because the first time I saw it, I just saw this kind of heaving lump, right, from this side. And then what's absolutely delightful is that literally as you walk around it, you begin to retrieve this menagerie, as it were.
Creatures.
Yeah, the deer, the lurcher, I think it's a duck or a swan, or maybe it's a grebe or something. I mean, I'm not exactly an author. And here we have a hare. Yeah, the animals of field, etc., from the flats of Norfolk. What I really love about it, as I say, is you take a lump of clay and you squish it and you squeeze it, and gradually it becomes stuff. So of all the pieces in the show, this is easily the most transformative, literally. And what excites me about this piece is that the materiality, the stuff of which it's made, is still there, and things are emerging. They are becoming. They haven't quite finished becoming.
Oh yeah, nice. Yeah,
okay.
It's midway.
And there are other elements like these, which you think, are they just about to become, or have they been?
Oh, I see. Are there more animals?
Yes. Oh, yes.
Or more things.
Well, potentially, yes. Or maybe they've been squished, and they've now
sort of flamed up.
Yeah, that's right. They've been seen off. They're in oblivion. No, I just think it's a really exciting piece.
It is really exciting.
Yeah. Right. That's this room done. We'll move on now. Yeah. Right. We've left the main studio and come into this. Well, this was the original building, and the studio is an extension. So anyway, so the whole of the studio. This has been painted, obviously, for the exhibition to sort of tidy it up a bit. But white cube it ain't. Thank God. Yeah. God's truth. Imagine. Right. Okay. Right. This is by Michael Johnson. Yep, Michael Johnson. Precinct with 4 living creatures. Now, I think this is, again, one of these pieces where you think you know what you're looking at, and then after a while you think, hold up.
Well,
check out the buggy for a second. Can you see the hand on the rail of the buggy?
Yeah,
on the top of it.
Very nice.
Then,
it appears, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, but then something appears down here that looks suspiciously like a leg. It might actually be connected to the hand.
Yeah, exactly.
Etc. But then, of course, that's interrupted by the fact that there's somebody in high-vis digging a hole.
Yes.
Now, it's not a grave digger because they don't need plans. And then,
different area.
Yeah, everywhere you look, the thing is, it looks. When I asked Michael about it, when I asked Michael, he said, "I just paint, the things going on around me, the things I see."
Okay.
And and you think, but the way you see them is extraordinary and remarkable. The way that they're sort of, again, it's this thing about indeterminacy. Yeah. You're not quite sure what you've seen or how you see it, and least of all how to record it or reflect it. And I think that is a fascinating piece, because every time I look at it, I see something completely different, obviously, because I see it differently.
Yeah, it's actually much more fascinating than I realised.
Oh yeah.
Because there's all
it rewards a hell of a lot of looking, I tell you. Yeah.
It's intriguing, and there's a lot more than 4 living things in it.
Yes.
That's really intriguing. Look at that.
It looks like it should be accessible, but there are parts of it that are really they're puzzling, and they're frustrating, and they're definitely indeterminate.
Yeah.
Fabulous. I just think that's, and again, it's one of those pieces which rewards looking.
Yeah, it does.
Simple as that. This is right. What I've done is occasionally I've hung paintings, as I mentioned in the last room, closer to each other, not in pairs per se,
sure.
but close. Yeah. So there is a pair of paintings here, there's a pair of paintings there, and another pair there, and so on. Right, okay. The first of this pair is by Georgia Peskett. Now Georgia I met through Turks, the correspondence course, yeah. And her work immediately, well, after, I think during the course of the year that we had a correspondence, her work got stronger and stronger. And she's one of the few people that has actually managed to create the idea of the sense of condensation.
Okay.
Yeah, because here we get the idea of the picture gradually condensing, like some old cathode ray tube TV warming up, something slowly coming into focus. So this is condensation. This is winter AM, it's called, right? Winter morning, right? And things gradually coming into focus. So here we've got this, not just depicting a house, but it's actually looking out through the window.
Yeah.
So we're located in a house, looking at another house, and all that sort of stuff's going on.
That's really
But it is, and I just find this sort of slow, easy, understated, the familiar made unfamiliar.
Yeah, it is. Because that tree's got slightly disturbing quality to it.
Yes, slightly disturbing quality. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. No, I just say it's exquisite. And of course, you get this little spots, because I think it is, hold on, is it silk on there's something about the, it's a piece of silk which takes the paint entirely differently to cotton duck or paper, as in the case, because Michael's piece is paper that's been bonded down to cotton duck.
Okay.
It's the canvas.
Interesting.
No, this is a beautiful quality. That's ethereal, and you're not too sure if things are coming or going.
No, exactly. You can't tell if they're disappearing or appearing.
Exactly right. Now, because of the domestic sort of theme, and I thought, well, what about this piece by Jane Mortor? Now, it's untitled, but what I found fabulous when I saw this was, when I think of constructivist art, I think white, I think hard edges, I think architectural models, I think foam board, I think scalpels. And the one thing I also always assume that people who are constructivists own is a ruler. Right? Well, how wrong can you be? This is terrific, because it's kind of like I hesitate to say it, but a mash-up of constructivism and impressionism.
That's a wonderful description.
Yeah, exactly. And here it is, this sort of shonky. I mean, I don't think Jane will be particularly offended by that, because I think that's what's attractive about it. The fact that you come to objects like this with a fixed set of, or a set of expectations, right. And the more educated you are, the more fixed those expectations become. That is rather sad, really, but true. And when I saw this, I thought, I really don't know what the hell's going on. And then gradually, overseeing it it's been here about 2 or 3 weeks, the more I've seen it, the more I've enjoyed it.
Intriguing.
Yeah, because of what it's, the way it's been, as I say, counterintuitive, call it what you will. It's a terrific piece.
I do like impressionistic constructivism.
Well, it's a kind of shotgun wedding, isn't it, too? Yes.
It is.
Or a PVA wedding. No, I think it's terrific, but as I say. Right, this is by myself, and it's, I mean, as I say, right. I've been trying for years to make paintings that are in fact, I wrote about it recently, that have a luminosity. They've got a light that's inside them, and actually have that duality that you see when you see a Manet and things like that. You see the object, you see the subject matter, and as I say, like a fluorescent light, like alternating current, it's going backwards and forwards so fast it's static. You see them constantly fused as one. And I think that's one of the distinguishing features of painting, that dichotomy, that kind of That relationship between those two propositions. Right. And therefore, the subject matter for me, I mean, it's this the last couple of years I've been painting workshops, but that's a totally different story. So I chose for this show just to have a piece that was painted almost alla prima, right?
Yeah.
And I believe.
Oh, that's the title.
No, you're very close. No. The title is 2 hours 12 minutes.
Is that how long it took to paint?
Yeah. Hey, I can see you know your art. That's true. You worked that out before, yes. You saw the title and thought, why? It looks like garden and plants and stuff. Of course it does. But to point out that it's a garden would be either patronising or just lazy. And I thought, how can I describe this? And I thought, it's not quite a one-shot painting because, as I say, spent most of the time sort of. I mean, I don't include priming it, but the actual putting the liquid down and painting it with that's predominantly Davies grey, right? Yeah. And there's some Payne's grey, and look at the difference in the two, one warm, one blue. Yeah, when you see them together, Because don't forget, 99.9% of my paintings are painted with Payne's grey.
No, I remember.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. Actually, there's different in those two.
Right, and one plays off the other, etc. And don't forget, these are greys by virtue of their admixtures, not of black and white. I mean, that just has no part in it. But things like viridian, ochres, and stuff like that. And Davies invented Davies grey, and unsurprisingly, Payne invented Payne's grey.
So why the oval?
Ah, right. That's to it's a vignette type device. Why ovals? Because I wanted to paint paintings where you feel that they're infinite. Okay. Now, first of all, the rectangle is an architectural. It's a convention of the way we negotiate space. It's got a huge history, etc. But so is the oval. I mean, the lunette or the vignette. You can either think of kind of Georgian dinner plates or bits of decorative art. But the other thing, of course, that a lot of these hark back to is neo-romantic book covers. Things like Craxton and Minton used to do what are called duotones, with two colours on a white ground. And quite often, that's how I paint at present, as duotones, with two colours, etc., to give it a vernacular sort of feel.
Interesting.
Right? Okay.
When you say vernacular, you mean?
I mean basically not of high art.
Okay.
It's from an applied art. A lot of what I do is always, as I say, it's a bit. It's complicated, and as I say, it's about access. It's about class, it's about sort of accessibility, but it's also about currency and language. I'm fascinated by language, visual and otherwise. Anyway, so so the first shot, or the first layer, is the Davies grey painted into the liquid that dries. Second coat of liquid, tiny touches of Payne's grey just to accent and to load up various areas.
And the fingerprints.
And the fingerprints. Well, I was just going to say, just imagine the idea, the antithesis of sophisticated and and grandiloquent brushwork is finger painting. And so here we go. And when you do look at it close quarters, they're kind of fairly pedestrian sort of marks. There's some, are downright clunky and a bit sort of, ham-fisted, literally. But then, of course, when you pull back, the whole thing starts to sort of condense or into something, I think, quite poetic, quite elegiac.
Absolutely.
But as I say, after I'd done this and a few of the others, I was asked to be in a show called Paint Edgy, and I thought, well, what is there? How can what is there to say about that, really? And I struggled with it for a while, but then I suddenly realised that if you just had one edge, so that means there's one or two figures, regular figures, well, fairly regular. One is the circle, and the other one is the ellipse.
Interesting.
Right. Okay. And I thought, okay, I'm just going to have one edge. I just leave it at that, really. So there's a kind of sort of, it's finite yet infinite and all that sort of stuff. But yeah.
Nice.
But as I say, the more I looked at it, the more I suddenly realised that I kept thinking of what is it, collectible first editions from the 30s.
Yeah.
Right. Now, what do you make of this? I want you to tell me what you can see first.
Oh, Michael Major, he taught me painting ages ago.
Yes, he did, yes. He's probably taught more people to paint than you've ever met.
Yeah, I bet he has. I mean, it's the shape of a head.
It is a head.
And then inside it you've got all these weird little people doing things. Possibly like they're at a school, even if they're in like a kindergarten or a prep school.
It's got something to do with it, sort of, yes. It's an institution, isn't it?
Yeah, and then
it looks institutional.
It does look like an institution. Yeah, so the other things I would notice about it, you've got somebody who looks like they're holding a baby in a yellow top. But then down here, where that's an ear, where the mouth would be, you've almost got like a sort of bandage across the mouth, or a blockage across the mouth.
Yeah. That's a very interesting reading of that, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know, what do you...
Well, I think I have to tell you straight away, this is Mike, it's obviously by Mike Major, you know it's by Mike, yes. Yeah. Well, Mike is suffering from a severe and very aggressive form of dementia.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Okay, last year or two. And his work has taken a turn, and it's some of the most arresting, alarming, truly disturbing work I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Some of the stuff is so visually robust, for want of a better word.
Yeah.
Without actually setting it in context, it would be gratuitous or kind of problematic to be showing it out of context, right?
Yeah.
Right. But he's a friend. You know, we were at college together. I've known this guy for 50 years practically, 50 years. And I think he's one of the greatest teachers and one of the best painters of our generation, definitely, yeah. There's not a lot more I want to say about this, except that I and Mike's wife Sue, I'd love to see an exhibition of his work.
Oh yeah.
And particularly taking seriously this, what people call neurodiverse, this later work, because when you step back from this, there apparently are 900,000 people with dementia or one form of dementia or another.
Yeah.
But that's not the end of it. For every one person that has that condition, there are 2 or more people suffering it. You get it?
Oh man,
yeah. Think about it. Yeah, because each one is a carer.
Oh yes, of course. No, absolutely.
Because of the state of the, you know, the way that sort of healthcare has been sort of. I don't even want to start about that one. Yeah. So there are more people suffering from this because of this than actually have it.
Yeah.
And talking to Sue recently about it, I thought, I've got to do something, because these are extraordinary paintings.
They're brilliant.
And we're not talking about, oh look, it's clever how they do it, sort of that patronising nonsense. Far from it. I think arguably this might be some of the strongest and most disturbing works I've seen by him or anybody for a long time.
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
Yeah.
Because I've seen lots of them on Instagram, and they're all quite...
They're hard.
Extraordinary.
Yeah, they're tough. Right, moving on. This is by a guy called Elk O'Sullivan, and I don't know whether your camera can pick up the reason that they're floating off the wall is because, can you see that lovely glow on the wall? Yes, you can. Oh yes, I can see it on the camera.
Oh, I see. That is actually the glow on the wall is part of it, or is that the actual painting?
Yeah, that's the painting reflecting off the wall.
It's absolutely wild.
Yeah, isn't that lovely?
So which is meant to be the work, the shadow or the...
Oh, I think it all is.
The whole thing?
No, the whole thing is, yeah. No, these are little paintings, right? Well, they start, I mean, they're very small, non-referential, you know, the thing itself. But what happens is when you take them, originally I was going to have them over there in one of the alcoves, and it wouldn't have worked.
It wouldn't have worked,
no. Here, it floats, and then you can see it straight away, can't you? On the
absolutely.
wall. That's the light, that's on the back of the painting. Yeah. And I think there are fluorescent paints on the back, so they've got that very high chromatic value, so they pick up and reflect light.
It's very strange.
good,
very
isn't
strange.
It? Yeah.
Because it's a coloured shadow. Because I was reading.
That's exactly what it is. Yes, yes, which is very, very.
Which is very strange because you've got the shadow sculpture picture.
Yes.
You've got these shadows, and then the thing I was reading earlier that you'd written about illustration. You talk about shadows.
Oh yes.
In there.
Yes.
As what is that?
Well, because a lot of the paintings I've been painting recently, I paint shadows. Right, that's how I wrote a statement recently. Did I share that with you? That one? I paint shadows. Anyway, right, and like so many other people, it's about the shadows. I mean, like now, help you understand and negotiate the space. They're present, they're ubiquitous, but they're intangible.
That's it. Yeah,
and that's what I loved about the idea of them being synonymous with painting. Or analogous to painting, because it's here, but it's not really, which leads us on to another piece here, which had to be hung in an alcove, because, as I say, to minimise the amount of reflection. This is by Mark Wainwright, and it simply has number 295. Right, it's medium pigment, screen print and so on, but now if you look, and this is about looking carefully. Would you want to tell me? Yeah, you do that.
Well, if I look carefully,
you narrate it.
Oh my goodness me! I've finally seen the woman inside it.
That's right. And who is that woman? Do you recognise her? Get art historical for a minute.
Oh, I can't think of her name, but
well, you know, I think you know the painter's name, Whistler.
Yeah.
And they're very famous. There are two famous Whistlers. Study in Grey.
Yeah.
I think that's what it's called, which is his mum or his granny.
Yeah.
And then there's the other one, is the lady in white. Yeah. Which I think is also Wilkie Collins. No? Yeah. And there she is. There she is.
Seen that earlier. I've looked at it quite closely.
It's 50-50. And I mean, that's why I say I wanted you to have access to the show before I told you.
Yeah.
With Mike's piece, with this piece, with so many others. Yeah. Ghost of Tree by John Strutton. It was made a couple of years ago, and I think if you go in close, I'll just tell you what the media are because it is complex. Watercolour, gouache, ink and woodcut on handmade paper. And then of course handmade paper, 2 different sheets, maybe more, right, cut up and woven together, but impeccably done. I mean,
that's quite extraordinary.
It is. Again, this is absolutely fascinating. You know, that sort of. That's what I'm trying to say. It goes beyond whether you like things or not. These are fascinating. This is genuinely fascinating.
Oh, it is.
It tests your idea of your understanding, and in some respects, the world around it in a very modest sort of a way.
Yeah, because the way you look at it, there's all sorts of things in it. You get the feeling of like Japanese prints.
Oh yes.
You get the feeling it could be a tree that's been sort of destroyed and ripped to pieces and put back together. But it's also got a weird sort of enigmatic way of rippling in front of your eye, like it's some kind of explosion.
Again. Well, it's also very indeterminate.
Yeah, it is.
There you go. You see? I make my case.
Yeah.
No, I think it's absolutely terrific. So compact. So it's beguiling as well. Because just as you think you've organised your understanding, it falls apart again. This is a piece by Mindy Lee. It's called Headspace. I just want to check what year it was painted. 2021. Yes, Headspace. Right, acrylic and pigment on silk. Now, this does warrant closer inspection. Yeah. First of all, it's a reclaimed and recycled frame underneath that's used as a stretcher, which I think is a really nice sort of, repurposing.
I see, it's been stretched over and over.
Yes.
Oh, that's cool.
Well, that's the second picture, because Sarah Jeffries and Neil Irons, that's another, and Sally's one at the end there, which we'll come to in a minute, is recycled, Right, and this is called Headspace, and I think I'm not sure she's got 1 or 2 children, but as a parent you'll know that the idea of actually finding somewhere for your head, one day, can I have my head back, please, can I have me back? No, I think it's terrific, it's quite touching, but it's expressed not in a kind of sort of moany, victory sort of way. It's done in a kind of sort of dry, slightly poetic, sort of curious sort of way that makes you understand, yet think about it, not sort of think, no. There's not. Again, it's about the idea of the reaction is indeterminate, and that's where it lies.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's rather sympathetic as well.
Very much so. Yeah.
It's almost like little flowers growing.
Oh, there are. Yeah, I think some of these are actually that have this sort of idea of growth, and they're analogous to flowers and plants. But the idea that it's a kind of sort of, there's a void beneath the hair. I know that feeling. Right. And this is, I think it's called, sonder. Now, I honestly don't know what sonder means. By the way, the parsnips, John Stark's thing, is called hither.
Hither. Oh,
hither. Right. Hither and thither. Hither, which just means here, apparently.
Oh, right.
Yeah, hither. Yeah, hither and thither.
Yeah.
You've heard the expression?
Yeah.
Sorry. Anyway, now, this is, I can't about it. But anyway, Helen Bermingham this is, and Helen's just had a show in New York, and she was at the Royal College last year, and she's been really busy, but she's, the last couple of years, I mean, she has, don't forget, she was a student during lockdown, which was very problematic for anybody studying.
Yeah, of course.
But my goodness, like everything Helen does, she's really made the most of it. She works, does work, as in West End Theatre as a dresser.
Really? Oh, wow.
Yeah. Or in the wardrobe department. These and the kind of arabesques, the kind of sheer sort of. Oh, it's something to get lost in.
Yeah, it's got a dancey vibe to it.
It really has. Yeah.
Intriguing. And it's very layered. You can't quite tell how it's been layered.
That's right. You think because most people when they start sort of, we can see the same blue appearing. You think, has that gone on last or third or second? But hold on, there it is beneath. So it's a lot more complicated than it looks.
Intriguing.
Yeah, and also this lovely sort of, nice. You see the way it breathes, the paint as it goes down.
Absolutely, like a sort of horse's tail escaping.
It drags. Right.
Interesting.
And last but not least is a piece by Sally Crowley, and it's called Zero Waste. Looks at first like an anagram, but it actually does say zero waste. Yeah, I've got it wrong there.
And there's kind of a zero or space in the centre.
Well, yes, but that's that's zero as well, obviously. Now, so Sally makes paper from recycled card and paper. So she made the paper. Yeah. Then these are lino cuts, right? Yeah. And in fact, I don't want to go into too much of the story. She was talked into doing a whole alphabet.
That's she was
upper and lower case. Yeah. Which, I mean, you don't have to be a kind of linguist to work out. Well, that's 52 for a start. Yes. And so that's you've got your work cut out. And then there's numbers and stuff. Anyway, so yes, so all of it is repurposed, recycled, including the frame.
Oh, really?
Of course. Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's very clever.
Yeah.
I've got to say, the paper is just so beautiful.
It's stunning, isn't it?
The colours in it are just absolutely immaculate. It's stunning. Really, really good.
Yeah.
I do like the alphabet. It's just so extraordinary.
Yes.
I love it. It's sort of so friendly.
That's right. Yeah, but also there's as many different typefaces as there are letters.
Yes. Yeah. It's really good.
And finally, a photograph by Bill Jackson of it's Fromous, is it called? Yeah, the Fromous Valley, which is near Aldborough, just going up a little bit further up the A12, the Fromous Valley. Anyway, it's absolutely exquisite place. But when you look at this photograph, I don't know about you, going back to your original observation about the show, if that isn't fascinating, I don't know what is.
I mean, it is, because when I first saw it, I thought, is it a drawing? Or is it
print?
Or print? It's got qualities of all those sort of things.
That's very interesting to say that. Yeah, you're not the first person to say that.
Within it. And then when you look into it, it disappears into a miasma of sort of tiny little lines in the centre.
It's exquisite.
It's got incredible quality for a photograph.
Yeah. But Bill is an extraordinary photographer, an extraordinary artist. Makes videos as well.
Sorry, because in reality, it's nothing more than just a sort of a bit of a, I mean, just a bit on a walk you'd look at. But for some unknown reason, it's insanely compelling.
Yeah, and look, can you see here the telltale of the flashlight? This is a shadow projection.
At that.
Yeah.
That's really interesting, actually.
Yeah, of course it is, yeah. Now, where the lights are over here, I don't know how it's lit, I mean, I know. But what I found absolutely delightful is these tiny little holes, like the paper has become porous.
Yeah, it is.
And then, of course, we've got this highlights here, which is in the foreground.
Popping out as well.
Which is in the foreground, of course.
And
then look at this, you feel like you can walk through there. Oh, that's terrific.
I hadn't realised it's got a sense of a stage.
Oh yeah, that's a very good analogy. Yes. The way it's lit, highly constructive. Yeah.
Really.
Anyway, that's this year's show.
Yeah.
And
well, great. I think it's absolutely fascinating.
Good.
Indeterminate, shall we say?
Yes.
But no, I would thoroughly recommend coming to see it because you need to come here in real life and get because they've all got a real tactility to them, the pictures as well.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah.
So seeing them in real life, I think, makes an absolutely massive difference to the experience. So so I would encourage everybody to come down here and see the show.
Good. And as I say, it's after the opening, it's by appointment, which means just go to the website or look at the flyers and just phone up, make an appointment and come and see it and have a cup of tea.
No, what more could you possibly want?
Who could refuse that?
Who can refuse that? Lovely, well, Graham, thank you so much. I've really been a privilege and a pleasure to be shown around by you.
It's been a pleasure. And same here, Rob.
Thank you.
Thank you.